owner and asking all the questions. And I had no clue what was wrong with this cat. Like I had no clue. And I remember t taking his little face in my hands and looking him in the eye and literally saying out loud, "So tell me what's wrong with you." And I immediately heard him say, "I'm really sick. I'm diabetic." And that's literally what came in. And I didn't, like, I had no clue. And the owners thought it was so funny or cute that here I am holding this little cat's face, his little head in my hands, and I'm looking at him going, "So tell me what's wrong with you." Did they really realize that, he was actually telling me what was wrong with him? And so I said to the owner, I said, "Well, he says that he's really sick and that he's diabetic, so I think we need to do some tests." And sure enough, the cat was diabetic. And
What you do is so fascinating because you are a vet and an animal communicator. I mean, what better way to diagnose is if you could actually get that information from the animal themselves, right? So
yes,
just tell
yes,
me a little bit more about what you do, and then we can go back into
yeah.
how it all started.
Not a problem. Yeah, not a problem. So I am a practicing veterinarian and have been now for, oh gosh, going on almost 20 years. So I've been practicing for a while. I've been an animal communicator since I was a little girl. So as long as I can remember, I've been talking with the animals. Animal communications kind of come in and out of my life over these last 40 some years. And yeah, it's amazing how, something that I probably took, for granted when I was younger, as far as thinking that everyone just did that. Everyone talked to animals, and I wasn't any different than anyone else. And so therefore, no one talked about it. And, it's just because we all did it. And it wasn't until I was made aware that that was probably not something that everyone always did all of the time, and that it might be a little bit different, that I realized that yeah, it was a little bit of a gift, as far as that goes. Definitely, I use it every day as I practice. And I remember one of the first days as a new graduate. I was in a consultation with this beautiful, gorgeous black cat. And I remember doing a physical exam on him and going through and, taking the history from the owner and asking all the questions. And I had no clue what was wrong with this cat. Like I had no clue. And I remember t taking his little face in my hands and looking him in the eye and literally saying out loud, "So tell me what's wrong with you." And I immediately heard him say, "I'm really sick. I'm diabetic." And that's literally what came in. And I didn't, like, I had no clue. And the owners thought it was so funny or cute that here I am holding this little cat's face, his little head in my hands, and I'm looking at him going, "So tell me what's wrong with you." Did they really realize that, he was actually telling me what was wrong with him? And so I said to the owner, I said, "Well, he says that he's really sick and that he's diabetic, so I think we need to do some tests." And sure enough, the cat was diabetic. And it was kind of just has stuck in my memory. And so, probably every day I probably look at them and say, "Okay, so tell me what's wrong with you," and have those things, come through. Or I will say things to owners about things that that animal does or says, or and they'll just kind of like look at me like, "Oh, how did you know that?" So um, and it's purely because they're telling me when I when I ask them. So yeah, and that's just kind of been a following a trend um, from day one practice, as to just ask the animals what's going on to help me diagnose and treat them better. And um, yeah, just to help them heal, and give the owners all of the information that they need to be able to help the animals, get better and to heal and that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's kind of what I do every day. I also teach people how to become animal communicators, and so I'm a firm believer that we all have this gift. Um, I think we talk about mother's intuition with our children, with babies. I don't have kids personally, but I've got pets, but that that innate psychic connection that we all have, that ability as babies to be able to communicate with our mothers, to be able to tell them what's, going on, what we need, that kind of thing. And then as we grow up, society and culture and parents all of a sudden start to tell us that we're using our imagination too much, or that's a figment of our imagination, and that ability starts to get suppressed. But it's always there, and so I believe that we all have it, and therefore we can not only, use that connection that we can do, speak with our mother as a baby, but as with the animals also, because it's the same frequencies, the same energy of that connection. And so I teach people how to reconnect with that through the path of least resistance and whatever is the easiest way for them to do it. And I go through the process of helping them, reconnect with the animals and to give the animals a voice. And that's, ultimately what it's all about. That's the ripple effect that I want to see, is that we all be able to give the animals the voice that they deserve, and be able to tell their stories and to acknowledge them and validate them, to help us be better humans, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, could everybody do it? So I know there's a lot
Yes.
of different people have got different types of psychic abilities. Do you teach a
Yes.
specific modality, or can they use
Mm.
clairsentience or clairaudience or
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I'm a firm believer that the animals will communicate to us through the path of least resistance. So whatever our clair strength is the strength that comes through the easiest. I teach all of the clairs through the program, and help people to develop all of them, because we have all of those abilities. I just think some are, turned up a bit louder than others. So they can start to at least learn to utilize those different strengths. And but generally there will be one or two ways that the animals really come through the strongest, and it really is just the path of least resistance. It's whatever is the easiest. So for myself, I am strongly clairaudient. So I just hear them. I have always, heard them. I do have a lot of what I call downloads, so which is claircognizant. So you just kind of have that knowing. The information just drops in, and you just kind of know something without really knowing why or how. Um, I do use clairvoyance and clairsentience, probably less stronger than my other two, but my clairaudience is my main way. It's just the easiest for me. So whenever I say I hear them or they're saying these things, um, it's mostly that, but there's always other things that are coming in, and I just kind of funnel it all through that kind of verbiage, as far as it's just the easiest for me to say. But no, I do. I teach it. I teach everyone all of that. But during the program, they learn what is their strength, and I do it in a very unique way. I used to teach animal communication just as an animal communication course, and I found that while I was holding space for everyone in class or via Zoom, um, they were fantastic, getting lots of messages, really had lots of confidence. And when the class ended and, they went out into the big wide world, and I was like, okay, you can do this. All of a sudden, the confidence wasn't there. They just weren't feeling that they could do it. They weren't trusting the messages. They weren't trusting the process. So I created Pet Tarot. So we use tarot cards as the anchor for the communication to come through. And I spent a lot of time creating, doing a lot of readings, working with my own dog to get the messages as far as the kind of the framework, as far as the baseline, meanings of the cards from the animal's perspective. But at the end of the day, it's just about them having an anchor to hold on to, and to say, this is what the animal is saying, and to trust it. And I found that when they finished the course, they would continue on because they had that connection, that anchor that made them feel like, okay, yes, I can do this. I can trust in what the card, is saying, and then the animals come through that. And so, yeah, so once they finished it, I was finding that my animal communicating students were going on and doing readings and building businesses and doing all of that kind of stuff purely because of Pet Tarot. So it's a very unique tool that I teach. I don't know of anyone else who is doing it in the world, but it is a really powerful tool for people to be able to really learn how to connect with the animals and really trust the messages that are coming through, and have that anchor that gives them that kind of embodiment of spirit and embodiment of what the animals are, the messages they're bringing through. Yeah, so then they can go out and do it with no questions. So it's really fantastic to watch them go out and be amazing animal communicators and create thriving businesses, and the ripple effect that I'm hoping will happen. So
Well, it definitely will happen. And I think there's a great I did see your tarot on your Facebook and I was fascinated because I haven't seen it. I think that is totally unique. I don't think anybody's doing it. And
mm,
it's going to take off for sure because it's
yeah,
just, everybody that owns a pet, how do you talk to them? And even if you aren't able to do
yeah,
the course, at least you've got something that you can go by.
yes,
I'll get
yes,
myself a pack. How's that?
yes.
Um, but the thing
Yeah,
is, even if you were as a vet and you're going to help all these people, you can't see them all. So to help other people to be
mm,
able to do that and
yes,
carry it forward creates more leaders. You can't do it on
yes,
your own. We can't do it
that's
on our
right,
own.
that's right,
So yeah, I think that's
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 right,
great
that's
because so many
absolutely.
people keep it to themselves and they don't want to share. They want to keep all
No,
that ownership and what's the point of having something that you can't, it's having a gift that nobody's allowed to have. That's crazy.
yes, that's right. And it is crazy because it is about being able to be a voice, even if you just want to be a voice for your own pets. You get to be an advocate for them. You get to be able to go to your vet and say, listen, this is what I'm getting, this is what's coming through, let's work together, and help the vet, but also too, to be able to then help other people, give those messages, to them. I do a very, and as this is something that I do teach in my level 2 program. I teach what's called a remembering reading, and it's probably one of my most powerful readings. And this is for people to be able to reconnect with their pets who have already passed, and so they get to do the goodbye hello conversation where, yes, they've said goodbye to them and they have passed over the rainbow bridge, but now they get to do this reading, and they get to reconnect with them in a whole new way, that then they can connect with going forward. And so they're really beautiful messages to bring across from the other side, from their pets, that they're still there, they're still with them, they're still guiding them. They're now acting as a spirit guide, from the other side. And when I teach my animal communication program, and I use the pet tarot. The first journey we go on is the journey through the major arcana, and the major arcana cards. That's our journey. That's our journey as the hero or as the fool, and we go through the fool's journey through that set of 22 major archetypes, and the animals are the guides. And so when we're doing the readings and we're bringing forward our animals, our pets, to help guide us and bring these messages forward, because they're such amazing mirrors. We think that they're acting out or having bad behaviors, and in actuality they're just mirroring our shit. They're just saying, like, no, 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 this is, look at, you need to have a look at what's going on in your life. And then when we take that moment to go, oh, okay, yes, this is me, then the behaviors disappear, the behaviors go away. And it's just this amazing journey that they get to be a part of, and be able to teach us what we need to be working on and taking a look at, and doing that kind of inner journey work ourselves. And then obviously the minor arcana with all of the suits, that's for the animals, that's their voice, that's their, we go through the elements, and it's all from their perspective, and they get to tell their story. And so it's a nice balance between both the pet and the owner as a therapeutic conversation, to not only help heal the pets, but it also helps heal the owners, through them. So yeah, it's pretty special, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love the way you've structured it, especially, I mean, people are so worried about tarot, but I don't know if it's true, but they said that the Catholic priests actually invented the tarot. And it
Yes,
actually describes our human psyche, in
it
all levels.
does.
It's a great way to
Yep,
use even in psychology. So, yeah.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely. Yeah,
and
no,
also,
they
Karen,
sorry, no, I was going to say they are psychological, life lessons and archetypes that we go through continuously. I think Joseph Campbell talked about the hero's journey, and that is the journey through the major arcana. That is the hero's journey. We as the fool take that leap of faith. And we land at the crossroads and we meet the magician, who is our spirit guide, and he takes us through, and we learn about our our archetype of mother and father, and our spiritual mother and father, and we learn our moral lessons, and then we take the deep dive into the underworld, where through that darkness, and we do the shadow work, and we learn what happened to us as children wasn't our fault, and that it's just it's just one of those things, and we can integrate those lost pieces of our soul, and then we come out the other side, and we're reborn again, and we've got the star, and then we meet our judgment card with by forgiveness, and understanding that karma has a cycle, and we can forgive what has happened, and we hit the world and we start again and we start a new chapter. So it's continuous. We're continuously going through these things, and it's no different with the animals. Animals come into our life for a reason. They have signed up with a contract, and they're here to teach us. And so by being able to go through that journey, and learn what those contracts are that they have signed up for, then allows us to not only heal us, but to heal them. And yeah, and then it just makes it, even more powerful, because we've got those tools that we can then face any kind of obstacle, or blip in the life timeline, with clarity and strength and compassion and empathy, and knowing that we're here to learn something. So yeah, I think that tarot does get sometimes a bad rap, but I think people think that tarot cards are like a Ouija board, that they're possessed. What people don't realize is that we're actually the portal. We're the ones that they're speaking through. And so therefore there is no possession or negativity there. It's coming through us, that those messages are coming through us as the conduit.
So yeah, and if you are clear and your pathway is clear, then whatever will be spoken will be clear. And if you're not, then that
Absolutely.
will not be clear.
That's
So I have
right.
so many questions, but let's just start here. All right. So
Okay.
how does the medical community look at the way you do things, or do you not share it, or are they, because I know in the past it would have been total taboo. How is that being
Mm.
received now?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I do not hide it. So I'm on Facebook. I've got a website. So I don't pull any bones about it. Um, However, the medical community is oftentimes a bit like skeptical, and for me, I believe that the people who are meant to work with me will find me. And therefore, I don't have to change who I am or how I am for anyone, but I also can respect their opinions and their perspective. And so I'm very fortunate in the practice that I work at. I don't get criticized or ridiculed for it, but then it doesn't get talked about either. So, so it's just kind of this acceptance of, okay, this is what Lisa does. We may not agree with it. We might not. They don't. I don't know. But the people who come to see me as clients and come into my field, um, they're the ones that then go, I saw you on Facebook. And then the conversation starts, and it's like, yep. And so, so those I believe are here. They're here to work with me. Now, I have done some great podcasts with people from all over the world, and currently in my current program who've gone through my level 1, level 2, I have 5 vets who are doing the program with me. So I think, again, the vets who want to know this and who want to utilize this and integrate it into their practice um, will find me. And so, and they'll be the next set of vets who have the skills that can then say, listen, this is what I do, and not be afraid to say, this is what I do. And again, the ripple effect occurs.
Yeah,
So,
because it's it's about being holistic. I mean,
yes,
any doctor would look
absolutely.
at a patient and look at all the symptoms. How are they walking? How are they dressed?
Mm,
How are they communicating with the person that's with them? Is there something
yes.
going on at home rather than just look at the actual symptom?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is I firmly believe in it, that all medicine should be a holistic approach. And we have the best of both worlds. We've
Absolutely.
got the most advanced medicine, but we've also got the most advanced ancient medicine that we should be working, together with. And yeah, I've always said that I would love to see, hospitals, and from a veterinary perspective, veterinary hospitals that are holistic, that are integrated, that have all of those options, and that people can come and get the best medicine, but also can get support with you know flower essences and acupuncture and energetic work and Reiki and whatever else that they need, um, to make everything work even better, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Mhm.
So tell me, do pets choose their owners, or
Yeah.
sometimes? Because I know my cat chose me, but how does that work?
Mm. So I'm a firm believer that that all pets come into our life for a reason. So I think with that said, then yes, I think that we choose them and they choose us. So they sign up with a contract, you know, before we land Earthside, both of us, the pet and the owner, and you know whatever contract that they've signed up for, they will come into that person's life at that moment in time as far as the contract that they've signed. So I believe that it's both. I think that we choose them and they choose us, and it's a two-way conversation that has occurred at some point before we actually come together. So I do believe that, and a part of my program, we go through the seven different soul contracts that animals sign up with, um, and learn to use the tarot cards to help bring out that those contracts and have better understand those contracts, and to still at the end of the day, when animals are having these conversations, they still have free will. They get to talk about whatever they want to talk about, and if they want to talk about their contracts, they will, but sometimes they don't want to. It's just not the right time for whatever reason. So there is always that aspect of free will that occurs through these conversations.
So, and I've also seen that a lot of animals, as you said before, they take on the ills of their owners, rather carrying it.
Mm,
And I know from
mm,
my personal experience, my mom's had a lot of dogs that had heart problems or
yeah.
hearing, they're always something, always on medication, and she's always on
Mm,
medication. So
yeah.
why do they do that? Is it to show affinity?
Mm,
Is it to take on the healing for them? How does that work for
mm.
them?
So yeah, again, I think that it's more about the contract, so that they will sign up for these physical contracts. So it's not that they necessarily are taking on the illness themselves, but they've signed up to have the illness with the owner, and so therefore they learn to, and I see it all of the time. I like it on a daily basis, where dogs will be diagnosed with diabetes, and the owner's daughter will be diabetic, or a dog will be, like you say, diagnosed with heart conditions and the owner will have a heart condition. And so I think it's about going, okay, not only do I have this, but my animal has this. How can we best treat ourselves? How can we best treat myself, and how can I best treat my animal? Because that's what happens is we start to look at a holistic approach for the pet in how to treat them, and all of a sudden the owners are going, well, hang on a second. Well, if it works for them, why can't I do it for myself? So it's again that two-way conversation that the pet and the owner are having in healing themselves, and healing each other. So I don't believe that they take it on. I believe that they have signed up to
Okay.
do it and to be a part of that. And it's through that kind of exchange where they learn how to heal themselves, or they are healing aspects of themselves along with the animal.
Could it be
So I hope that makes
possible?
sense.
It does. Could it
Mm,
be possible that maybe the animal is also healing something on their side, that they choose
yes,
somebody that has something, so it's kind of a co-creation and being a
absolutely.
mirror at the same time?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I've heard that we've
Absolutely.
been all animals. Is it, can we be a dog in this lifetime and the next lifetime a human? Or is it an evolution? What do you
Yeah,
think about that?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Like I've not got in having in having a lot of conversations with animals, I've never got this feeling that they were once a person. I get oftentimes they were another animal who has passed, and so some of that energetics has come through with them because there were probably still things that that animal needed to teach, the owner. um, and I think that we have lifetimes of that, and so we have that connection of feeling like, um, they're old souls and they're very wise, and that we've done this dance hundreds of times. But I'm not 100% convinced that animals that there's this kind of merging of the two. I really feel through having conversations with people who have passed and having conversations with animals who have passed and animals who are present, that we really are on two different trajectories in humans and animals, and that we don't merge in those, that we're running these parallels, and that we do it again and again and again. So I think these timelines are continuous. So yeah, but I don't think, I personally, I don't feel that, yeah, there's this evolutionary kind of aspect of human creation, as far as that we were once animals and we become humans and then we can become animals again. Yeah. So, but that's just again my
Yeah,
feeling, and
yeah,
it's just based on conversation.
it makes sense. And I also think that the animals have got more of a group consciousness where humans have got the
Yes.
subconscious and, a bit more complicated,
Hmm.
I think. So
Yes,
I've seen a lot of
absolutely.
videos of dogs now that they've got a mat, and I think there's some cats as well, when in the States, which have got words, so then the animal presses and then it says something. Is
Hmm.
that true? Are they actually pressing that button and the dog speaking? Are they able to do that? Or do you think that's just coincidental?
No, I do think that, again, I think it's that path of least resistance, and I think that they are picking up from their person, whoever is training them, how to communicate through the path of least resistance. And if that path of least resistance is going onto a mat and hitting buttons to give words or numbers, then that's the path of least resistance. And so I think that animals just are able to do that. They're able to pick that up in us. They're able to sense that in us, and they're able to go, okay, this is what they want me to do to communicate. So, okay, I will do that. I mean, there's birds that can, learn vocabularies and have conversations, of a 2, 3, 4 year old person. That's their capabilities, but that's their capabilities of their vocalization. Their mental capacities and their ability to communicate on a different level is way beyond that. So it's, I think, just about whatever is the easiest way to get the message to the person, that they learn, and that's how they communicate with us. So I do think they are communicating, but I think it's through the path of least resistance of the person who is training them. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's kind of like they pick out
yeah.
that the owner gets excited if they press this button or not
Mm,
so
yeah.
excited or.
Yeah, I think it's probably even a bit more even, beyond that. I really believe that the animals want to communicate with us, and they want to be acknowledged, they want to be heard, they want to be validated. And for people who are truly shut down to that, it's very frustrating for their pets. And so again, we see behaviors occurring with that because they're frustrated that they're not being heard. But also too, they get to a point where they just shut down and they just go, well, no one's going to hear me, therefore I just don't even want to try. And you'll see these animals that, excuse me, truly just get shut down, and they just have no life in them. They've got no personality, they've got no, charisma, those kinds of things. But when they are learning that, and they learn that okay, this is how they want me to communicate, then it does become exciting. And so then, then they are picking up on those kinds of reactions. But again, I still think that it is them going, okay, finally, this is how I get to talk. This is how I get to communicate, is by, pushing these buttons and, doing these things, and I get rewarded, and I get validated, and um, it just makes it easier for them.
Yeah, it's a great tool to have, I think. So getting
Yes.
back to your clients now, often I get clients with me and they've got children and they say to me, "Can you please coach my children?" And I say, it doesn't help for me to help them when the environment they're growing up in hasn't changed. So I
Yeah.
would assume that having a pet is no use to keep bringing the pet in to have it be healed when the owners are not uh, feeding it properly or giving it enough exercise or whatever.
Yeah,
So do you have a
absolutely.
program, or do you speak to them about that, or do you
Mm.
tell your patients, and I say patients would be the owners of the pets, do you say to
Hmm.
them, how do do you educate them in a way that they can understand how to stop creating that illness all the time?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think that the owners who are open to receive that will pick up on those subtleties. And so, oftentimes if something's going on with the pet, that maybe, all of a sudden they've developed an anxious behavior or separation anxiety, or some type of destructive behavior, one of the first things I say and I ask is what's going on in your life? you know and so for the owners who actually really hear that and that lands in them, then you can see the light bulb go off. And so all of a sudden it's like all you do is just have to ask that one question, and if they're really open to it, they go, oh yeah, yeah, no, there's a lot going on in the house. There's a lot of this. I'm under a lot of stress and this and this and this. And I said, okay, well, this is just a mirroring behavior that they're doing. And I said, I believe that, if you start to work through these things, then yes. Um, for owners who are not at that point, I can't make them be, you know, and so therefore then it is about doing the best that I can for the animal and going, okay, we need to try and feed them better. We need to try and give them more exercise. We need to, understand that these things are going to continue to happen until, we address some of this. Still knowing that there's going to be an owner component in it, but I can't change that. And again, I then have to say to myself or remind myself that this is the contract that they've signed up for, and so therefore it's not for me to try and to manipulate that or change that. And so they have to go through this struggle for whatever reason. I don't know, whatever the reason is, um, to figure it out. And so I do the best that I can, understanding that there's going to always be those situations where, for whatever reason, that contract is the way it is, and I can't change the owner with that. Um, I do the best and give my recommendations, but when they walk out the door, you know that's it. I have no more say, and so therefore they've got to figure it out, and that might be part of that learning process and that contract that they've signed up for them to sit and figure these things out and understand that, okay, well, hang on a second, if I quit feeding my animal this way, um it's going to change them. But there's going to be people who just go, I've been feeding my dog like this for the last 10, 15 years, and my dad before me did this, and my dad before me did this, and it's always been good enough. And I'm not going to change that. I can't do it. It's just, that's the way it is. So I have to go, okay, well, you know, what you can eat now, could you eat, when you were 20 years old? And he's like, well, of course not. And I'm like, okay, well, your dog's digestive tract is aging just like you are. So you gotta have to have a little bit of a helping them out here in making some changes, and sometimes it's it works, and sometimes it doesn't, and it's not for me to be judge and jury on that. So yeah, it can be difficult.
Yeah. Well, as you say, it's up to them at the end of the day to take the advice or not. And it's all
Exactly.
part of our journey. It's all part of the learning. So
Yes.
tell me, this might be a bit controversial, but with this whole story about vaccinations and all that stuff going around, is there also mercury and toxins in the vaccines that they give to pets, or is that totally different?
Well, I think it is. I think it is totally different. I do think that it probably once was that way. I do think that the vaccinations have gotten better. However, what we now know as vets, and the research that's been done around vaccinations in animals, we do know that pets, for core vaccinations, do not have to be vaccinated every year. The studies have shown that their immunity, goes out for at least 3 to 5 years, if not longer, and so it's probably not as necessary to be using those annual health checks as vaccination boosters. But what has happened is that 50 years ago, when we had these illnesses that were killing animals, rife, that it became associated with that they had to come in and get their boosters to be protected, and therefore generations have been trained to think that way. And so now that we know that, okay, well, that's probably not the way vaccines work, that we probably don't need to be doing this. However, for people, it's to say you need to come in each year and have an annual health check and make sure, because we can, as vets, we can pick up on so many health concerns so early on, that we can help make a big difference in longevity. But if we're not seeing them because people go, I don't want my pet to be vaccinated, so therefore I'm not going to go to the vet, because that's the association is go to the vet, be vaccinated. So therefore I'm not going to go to the vet. These animals are now getting health concerns and health issues, or being, diagnosed with health issues at a point where there's not a lot we can do about it. And so it's a very fine line of re-educating, I think, owners, and understanding that, yes, you do not have to vaccinate every year. That's a given, and it's a recommendation, and it's, under the World Veterinary Health Organization states that they don't have to be vaccinated every year with core vaccines, but they need to come in for annual health checks. And so it's like trying to retrain the people to go, well, you still got to come in, can see your vet, you just don't have to get vaccinated. So and the reason I feel that the vaccines have improved is that we are seeing less and less and less vaccine reactions in animals. We're seeing less and less injection site sarcomas in cats. Like when I first started practicing, in my first year, I saw an injection site sarcoma in a cat, probably diagnosed it probably a half dozen times. I've not seen it since. I haven't seen it since. We're still injecting cats. We're still giving vaccinations, not as frequently, but we still are, still giving cats injections. So, but we're not seeing those things. We're not. I don't see vaccine reactions anymore, where we used to see them regularly with puppies. They would come back with a vaccine reaction, and so I think our vaccines are getting much better, and less toxic in that way. I'm fortunate here in Australia. We don't have to we don't have to do rabies vaccines. That is one of the ones that I think still does cause a bit of reactions. But we're a rabies-free country, so we don't have to do that. So yeah, I think it's better. It's getting better, and it's not
Yeah.
necessary.
Now that's good to know. So have
Yeah.
you, I mean, you've been practicing for 20 years. Have you seen a change in different types of illnesses that animals come in with, or has it been consistent across the board?
Um, it really has been quite consistent across the board. Um, I did see a slight country variation in illness. I did practice for a very short stint in the US um, before coming back to Australia, and I've been here ever since. And so I think certain types of illness were slightly different, but no, I've not seen an increase in cancer in animals. I still see the same amount of immune-mediated disease that I did, 20 years ago. I would probably say that the one thing that has probably increased, and I think we see it more and more, would be allergies. So whether it be food-related allergies or environmental allergies, um, we see a lot of dogs, particularly, not so much cats, but a lot of dogs getting just the number of cases that we see in allergies is, I think, probably having a trend. If we were to have plotted it, I would say it would be trending upwards. However, I will put a caveat there. I think owners are much more switched on now than they were 20 years ago. And I think animals are now a part of the family unit, so therefore are treated like a family member than they probably were 20 years ago. So it's possible that there's not a trend upward. It's just that there's a much more conscious awareness in dogs and cats and horses having these things. Whereas the dog just used to live outside, and if it scratched all the time, no one knew. But when the dog lives inside and sleeps on the bed and scratches all night and keeps their owners up, all of a sudden the dog's going to the vet going, why is my dog scratching all the time? So I think that I think it's probably a little bit blurry there, because I do think that pet owners are much, much more conscientious now and much more aware, because they're no longer animals, they're part of the family. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact,
Mm.
throughout this interview, you've answered every question before I've been able to ask it, which is great. You're clearly psychic. So yeah, because and I agree with you. I think it is that they are noticing, but I'm also noticing that the quality of food being produced is just declining quite substantially, and a lot of
Mm.
allergy is because of poor diet.
Mm.
Is there something you recommend to the owners with regards to diet or?
Yeah, yeah. So I do recommend that for dogs, that if an owner is going to feed a commercial brand food, so a biscuit, dry kibble, that it needs to be human grade meat. It needs to be natural. It needs to have minimal inflammatory grains in it. Not to say that all grains are bad. It's just that some are worse than others. Wheat, glutens, and corn and those kinds of things. So yeah, so I think that it needs to be, you know, human grade quality proteins, meat, natural, with vegetables in them. We have a food here that I always recommend as far as a dry kibble, and a person could eat it, and that's my kind of caveat. It's like if you could eat it and you could live on it and you wouldn't get sick, then it's good to feed your dog. But I also do try to approach that, if owners want to um, make their own food or cook their own food, that there's a balance there, because what we think is a balanced diet of, meat and rice and some veggies is not quite complete and balanced, as far as vitamins and minerals go. So we just have to have a little bit of balance. Cats are a bit different because they're an obligate carnivore. They really are designed for an all meat or an all vertebrate prey diet. So the dry cat food is not as good for them because it has got a lot of processed cereal or grain-based carbohydrates that they just don't process. And I do see a lot of health problems based on that. And so I do, recommend either an all wet food based, meat based, if it looks like meat, then feed it to your cat. And adding in, I think that feeding raw diets to dogs is totally fine, and going through that, understanding again that their digestive tract does age, and young puppies and old dogs don't process and digest a raw-based diet, and so they need it to be cooked in order for them to process it. So it's just a matter of understanding that yes, you can feed a raw-based diet and it's fantastic, but as an animal ages, then it does have to change a bit, and what they could eat as a 2 and 3 and 4-year-old healthy adult dog, when they get to 10, 11, 12, they just don't process it, and then I see a lot of illness then, because owners haven't made that switch, or they haven't made this change. It's like, well, my dog's eaten this same way all of its life. How can it be making him sick? It's like, well, they just can't. It's no different than us, that what you can eat in our 20s, we don't tolerate so well when we're in our 50s and 60s. Our gut just doesn't process. So it's just making that understand. So I try to approach it in a way that works best for the owner and their lifestyle, in hoping them get the best, doing the best for their pet, because not every person has the time, money to feed a raw-based diet. It's expensive. You have to feed a lot of it. It takes a lot of preparation, and not everyone can do that, and they shouldn't be condemned for that. So therefore they should have other healthy options, and that's what I give them. I give them a lot of healthy options for them to choose what's best for them.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And cats, are they able to eat raw food, or is it preferably to
Yep,
cook
yep.
them?
So no, they cope with raw food much better than dogs, just because they are a true obligate carnivore, and their digestive tract is designed to consume large amounts of raw, whole vertebrate prey food. As they get older, again, they still are able to handle it a lot better than an older dog can. It's just their dogs' intestinal tract ages a bit like ours does, where cats does not, and it's just because of the way that they're designed to process food. Yeah.
So if there were to be a message from the animal kingdom, what would they want to share with people that do you think that they would like to know? Or maybe specifically the dogs or the cats? Is there anything they'd like to
Mm.
share?
Well, I think if cats had thumbs, they'd rule the world. So that's one message that they always say, that they are very good at having us be their slaves. Um, I believe that all animals are truly here to teach us, how to be compassionate, empathic, um, human beings that work from a place of unconditional love. And I think that it really is about having that level of empathy and love, understanding and forgiving, and to make decisions for not only ourselves but our planet, our community, our world, our trees, our from a place of love. And that's really kind of where it all goes back to, isn't it? And that's ultimately where we go full circle, as far as we're born from a place of love, and then we die from a place of love, and that's ultimately what we're coming back to. And I just think that they're here to really continue to hold that mirror up and say, we need, and get over ourselves times, and come from a place of love and unconditional with it. So I believe that that's truly what they're here to teach us and what they want us to know. I find in all of the conversations that I've had, over time, even with animals who have been abused or neglected, or, these horrible atrocities that occur, they still have so much love to give, and it really then becomes that mirror that we have to take a look at ourselves around this, because we're the reason for it. So yeah, I think that's the universal message, is
Yeah.
coming from that place. Yeah.
And it's great to just take a step back and actually appreciate that instead of think, what
Yes.
does the dog want now? What does the cat want now? You know?
Yes. Yep.
So where can people get hold of you? How can they reach you? How can they get hold of
Mm,
your pet tarot? Do you sell it online? How does it work?
mm. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So the you can get me. I have a website. So the website is www.animalconnection.net. Um, so on my website, and yeah, read about me. You can read about Spencer. So Spencer is my dog. He's a 10-year-old pug Shih Tzu who has been with me since he was 6 weeks old. He has been an integral part of creating Pet Tarot, and holding space for me to be able to have the conversations with the animals, to bring these messages in and bring it from their perspective. So he's very important part of Animal Connection. So he's the poster on the website. You meet him first up before you meet me. So all my services are there. So my readings, my pet partnership reading. So created the PET method of animal communication, and PET represents pride, empowerment, and trust, and that is the unique fabric of everything that I do. It all comes back to pride, empowerment, and trust. And so I've got my pet partnership readings that are based on animal communication and pet tarot. I've got remembering readings, and then I've got my programs, which are my pet partnership level 1 program, which is the introduction to animal communication and pet tarot, where you learn how to communicate with the animals, and you learn pet tarot. You learn how to do professional readings. By the time you finish it, you can go out and do professional animal communication and pet tarot readings. and then my level 2 program, which just takes it to the next level, literally. And it is really from a therapeutic aspect. So we work with spirit animals. We learn the spirit animals of the pet tarot cards. We learn therapeutic styles of readings. We learn how to hold space, have end of life conversations with owners, so their pets can have a say in how things go down, how things happen, what they want. We have conversations with our loved ones who we know, are terminal, or are, who are dying, and we ask them, what do you want? How do you want this to look? What kind of service do you want? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? But we don't do that for our pets. And so I believe it's important. So I teach people how to do that, have end of life conversations, do end of life readings, let the animals have a say in what they want, how they want it to go down, then remembering reading. So a lot of therapeutic techniques in helping them create a therapeutic business with ethics um, and understanding of what they can and what you can and can't do as a because I'm privileged as being a vet. There's a lot of things I can do because I'm a vet that maybe most people can't do. I do business coaching, so people who are wanting to make this a business. So I do have business coaching. I also have a pet empowerment package, which is a 4-session package, and this, I think, was one of my answers to one of your questions is when people work with me, if they've got issues, whether it be health issues or behavior issues, I generally do a 4-session package, and so where we work through these things not only with the owner and look at do a soul journey reading with them using the tarot and kind of life coaching, so to speak, but then we also do the pet. So it's a holistic approach. It's kind of like holistic life coaching for the pet and the owner together. So it's a 4-session package that we work through. So the pet partnership programs are online. They are self-paced, and that's available all of the time. I do 2 live sessions each year, so you get to work with me live each week, and we go through the program together, and we meet each week via Zoom, so it's all done online. And so I do that offering once a year for the level 1 and the level 2 program, but the online self-paced program is always available to people. So you can just, go onto the website. I'm on Facebook, which is Animal Connection with Dr. Lisa, and I have a private Facebook group that you can join. I just got done doing 12 Days of Christmas, where I gave away like heaps and heaps of prizes and gift vouchers and readings and programs and all sorts of different things. So it's active. I will often get on live and do free readings, 1-card readings. So that's kind of where you can, meet me. Obviously, if you're wanting to work on some health issues, we can just, book a time for consultation also. So I'm happy to do consultations and not necessarily have to be a reading. But as far as the pet tarot goes, I actually use a mass market deck, and I've created pet tarot from that deck. My actual pet tarot deck, like the actual, is in creation, so I haven't finished it yet, but I use the Wild Unknown tarot deck, is the tarot deck that I use for teaching pet tarot. So if you do my online program, the self-paced, then it is the tarot deck that I recommend you to purchase, because that's what I use to teach. I don't know why. It's just that was the deck that I got called to teach with, so that's what I do. But one day, the pet tarot, actual pet tarot deck will be created. But until then, I use a different. I use yeah, the Wild Unknown deck, which is a very different style of deck because it's very black and white. So there's not a lot of um, the symbolism in it is very subtle, I guess, is the best way. And there's a lot of animals in it, and so the animals speak through the cards quite easy. So
Well, could that be a New Year's resolution?
yes, it very well could be. I'm sure there would be a lot of people. There's a lot of people hanging out for that tarot deck to get for that tarot deck to
I
get finished. I
I
I
think it
haven't
would
had
be
it.
amazing.
Yeah,
You haven't had
the
inspiration.
well, no, the inspiration has been there. So all of the meanings and the all of the framework is all there. The only thing that hasn't dropped in is what it actually looks like. So what the actual cards look like, how they are going to speak. And that's what I'm waiting for to truly drop in is how it's going to really look. Like I have this idea in my head, but it's not quite come into full clarity yet. So yeah,
Well, the time is right, it'll happen. I
that's
can't
right.
wait, so I won't buy that. I will wait for your deck.
Thank
So maybe
you.
that's a bit of incentive.
There,
Yeah.
yes.
And I think sometimes it's not really about waiting as much as it is just about doing, and you can always
Yes.
refine it later.
Yes. And that's probably excellent advice, and I really probably should take that because I do normally I am one of those people that you know create and go with it before it's actually finished, and it just kind of like divine timing and divine inspiration kind of come together and it lands, and then I'm just kind of a week ahead of everyone else. But for some reason I've just have felt like, oh, it just I have to see this picture, and I don't know, so I probably should just do it like you say and be done with it, and then it will create itself. So
Yeah, and I think maybe because it's so close to your heart that you want it
yeah,
perfect, and so it'll
yeah,
never be perfect, and
yeah.
it may not be, and doesn't matter because
Mm.
it's about the
No, that's
message, right?
right. That's right. That's exactly right.
So,
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, thank you. That was amazing. I learned so much just myself from listening to you. So that was awesome.
Oh,
And
thank
I'll post
you.
all your links below. So if people want to get hold of you, they can
Oh,
also look on
thank
the links
you.
below. And
Oh, thank
thank
you.
you so
It's been
much.
so it's been so fantastic chatting with you, and thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate it. Um it's such a passionate message, that I want people to know about and to experience. And like I said, I'm a firm believer we all can do this. Where I'm not special that way. I really am not. I think the only thing that makes me special is that I can teach it. But we all have the ability in us, and it's just a matter of fine tuning the dials and getting the frequency tuned in, and then all of a sudden it's like, ah, you're off and running. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And thanks for taking your public holiday off for me.
It's okay. It was great.
Awesome. Well, you have a fantastic evening, and I will let you know
Thank you.
shortly.
Okay,
Have a
fantastic. Thank you. All
bye bye.
right. Bye bye.